What's up, Facebook? Let me make sure I am tuned in. I'm gonna go to my page real quick. We should be live right now, and please forgive us. I had some technical difficulties. I'm not gonna blame it on Corey. It was I. Okay, it was me. But thank you guys for being patient. So I've been doing this series called Leading Through Chaos, and the goal of this series is for other leaders to hear from other leaders to get an understanding of what their struggles are and know they're not the only one going through it, but also hear that good, bad, and ugly, and also recognize that there are leaders out there that are thriving and they're striving through the season. So I'm really excited to bring this young man, this gentleman, on today's call because he's actually a leader. He's a leader. He is a lead supervisor in his 9 to 5, and he also has a business where he really supports employee engagement. And he manages 3 teams. And we've talked about some of the struggles, the good, bad, and ugly offline. But he's been able to strive and make adjustments. And because he has a level of emotional intelligence, because he really supports his team, he's been able to navigate through this season effectively. So I'm really excited to bring on Corey. And Corey's going to break down the good, bad, and ugly. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about some strategies. And he's going to give you guys some 3 tips to kind of navigate through this season. So I'm really excited to have you, Corey.
Thank you. Thank you.
So tell me, like, what has it been, or like, how has it been navigating through this season? The corona has had us limited. I know there was one time you were on a call all night trying to figure out, okay, are you
Yeah.
guys going to shut down? Are you guys going to go, virtual? So how has it been for you since the coronavirus hit, and what has it been for you so far?
Yeah. So I would definitely say, so first and foremost, I appreciate you having me on here. But I think the biggest struggle that I've had is just the communication and not having to drop everything on a whim. So in my current 9 to 5, one day it was, no, we're gonna hold steady in the office, and then it was, well, we're kind of toying with the idea, and then it was all hands on deck, we got to get out the building. And so it was like you then having to manage your employees and not scare them and not make them panic as far as, well, what's going to happen? Am I going to have my job still? Am I going to be able to work from home? Am I still going to be able to get paid even though maybe I can't work from home? Like, what does that mean for me as the actual associate? And so there was a lot of, I guess, the hiccups at first was the communication and the kind of from the higher ups coming on down saying, okay, this is the direction we're moving, and how do you communicate that effectively to your team without without causing the panic?
So how did the lack of communication, how did it make you feel? Because even on my end, that was the first breakdown that I noticed. Me being someone that is very about communication, I like clarity.
Hmm.
It was like everybody didn't know what to do. We were getting conflict in messaging and messages. And being in the military, you have like the higher up saying one thing, but then the individual military bases are affected differently. I mean, and then we would get messages from the commander on the actual military base, and it was just like layers to the communication. So when it
Yeah.
got to us, I still always had questions like, well, does this mean we can go into the office? Does this mean we can? So, how was it making you feel as a leader to see that breakdown in communication?
Yeah, I mean, I just took it in stride and understood that like there will be hiccups and there's going to be some things that you got to work through because maybe your director or your vice president or your regional vice president is telling you something. Maybe the CEO is bringing something down the line that they're like, well, I'm sure not what it, I'm not sure what it is. Do we become, do we go to work from home? Do we not? What direction are we going? But it bothered me to see that it just seemed like there was no plan in place at all because as a company, I would, especially like a Fortune 500 company, technically. What are your plans in place for disasters? We went through Harvey. What was that? 2018 in Houston,
Yeah.
or was that 2017? I think it was. And so that should have tipped off every company, really, especially ours, to say like our employees can't get to work. Physically, we can't get to work. Our employees are affected by this struggle. They also have lives and children and family members that are affected by whatever this disaster that's going on. How do we combat that, or like how do we get ready for the next time? Because if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, right? And so
Yes.
I felt
Yes.
some kind of way because I was like, the communication is just off. And there's a certain time where I always say you got to manage out, manage up, or manage down. And so there's a certain point in time where you just got to be transparent, and we're all adults and we're all humans, and don't give the wishy-washy. No, well, I don't think so. And well, no, I think we are moving toward that. Or man, we just, and I'm doing the bunny fingers right now, we just got the call to say that, we need to start moving people out and whatnot. So I felt some kind of way, because I was like, we're in panic mode, and you're still kind of like the CIA, and you're like, oh, this is my info. I'm not gonna tell you yet until it's actually there. Like, prep us. Like, we're adults at the end of the day, so you can feel
Mhm.
free to let us know. Like, hey, look, we're discussing this right now. It's still to be announced, but just a heads up that this is what may be coming down the pipeline. So yeah, that definitely was the biggest hiccup. I think everything just like started moving smoothly after that, once we kind of got the communication out the way.
Yeah, and that was, you mentioned communication, but then the second part you talked about, I call it innovation, because you said, "Hey, we've been through this already." So there are lessons that we could have learned through the first experience that could have prepared us for this experience. But now we're running into the same issue because what innovation didn't happen.
Right.
Adjustments weren't made then. And I think that is so important because we have a lot of people, like even people who are struggling during the season. And one of the tips that I gave when I was on Nathalie Nelson Parker's her live for her community of young leaders is a lot of times we forget about the bad times or the bad times we have experienced in the past and what we learned in that season. But a lot of times what people don't do is that they don't prepare for the next season because I
Hmm.
mean, it's natural. We're going to go through this seasons of, it might not be this extreme, but we're going to go through seasons of hard times. But it's important that we adjust and we innovate and we make changes during that time. So I think that's really key that you highlighted. Hey, we've been through this before, and now look at us here again, and we
Right.
haven't made the adjustment. So leaders, if you're out there, remember that when you are going through these seasons, even if it's new for you, you need to come back on the other side and really start figuring out, what did you learn from this. I'm expecting when we go back to the organization that they ask everyone there at the organization and ask, hey, how were you able to manage, or what were the hiccups you saw from the outside that you need us as leadership to adjust to. And if they don't, I'm going to ask, hey, sir, would you mind doing a little town hall? Because again, this is affecting the people and everyone behind it. And I think it's important, not just as leaders, that we might recognize some hiccups, but get with your people and understand the hiccups that they're seeing. So how have you been able to do that? Like, what have you done as someone that manages, you said 3 teams, probably around 14 people? How have you been able to maintain connection and allow them to have some level of confidence in your leadership during this season?
Yeah, so I mean, it honestly, it started way back when you start developing relationships with people. So
Mm,
it's not panic mode once it actually happens, and you're like, oh my God, what do I do? It started way back when you first start developing those relationships. And what it is, you want to build the foundation to whatever it is. And so once you build that foundation and you have the relationships with your people, you have the trust with your people, you have the connection with your people, they are bought into what you do. Once you start giving directives and start, having a level of transparency with them to say like, hey, I'm giving you the inside track, like this is where we're moving, because that's the type of person that I am. Once I get information, and it will go back to, like, it kind of bothered me for that as well. So my peers, we get information, I go back to my team and say, hey, FYI, this is what's going down. So just be ready. I Again, we're adults. I can't tell you that it's gonna happen. I can't tell you that it's not gonna happen, but I'm gonna keep y'all updated with this. And so it was like, it just seemed like I would tell my team, and then everybody else around would be like, wait. And it's like their ears were perking up, and they were like, wait, what did he say?
mm.
What happened?
Because they didn't hear it from their
Because
leader.
Right, because their
Oh.
person didn't come back and say, hey, FYI, this is what's going down. And so it kind of snowballed into kind of like a smooth process for us, because once we got the word, hey, we're going to work from home, they were like, cool. I started prepping for it. I didn't have a problem with it. I was also ready to say if we didn't have to leave the office, but I was able to pivot on either one. And so other teams, they were like, oh my God, and it's like frantic panic. and they were like, well, now maybe I got to go get a laptop, or maybe I have to, how do I work from home, or like, what do I have set up? And my team was kind of just like, okay, well, I guess we'll just be working from home now.
Wow.
um, so that, it's you have to develop that foundation and the relationships, and really have that engagement into your employee to say, I trust you with this information I'm going to give you. Trust me on the direction that I'm leading you, and then at the end of the day, just follow my lead when it's time for this to make moves. So
I love
um,
that. I
yeah,
love that.
that took us down like a smooth transition from there, where other people were, I'm getting messages on Skype, and I'm getting, text messages from like old teammates and stuff like that, old associates that had gotten promoted at some point in time in a different department, and they're like, "Hey, you heard anything? You heard it?" And it's like they knew that they could come to me to be able to get the information. Um, yeah, but it's all about communication.
Wow, that's powerful. I mean, I wrote down that, you build that relationship early and you had already had effective communication with your team. And I used to do that as well. I mean, I remember being in tons of meetings. I'm not as in meetings as much in my 9 to 5, but whenever we did have a meeting or something came down, I went and briefed my entire team, hey guys, this is what's going on, so be prepared. And that's
Hmm.
why it's so important, because you're saying that you build that relationship, that communication relationship early. So because you were communicating and letting them know what's going on, it was easy to transition. And I think also I took from that is that you need to learn from other leaders. There might
Hmm.
be a multitude of leaders within that organization, or maybe you're a business leader, but maybe if you're noticing those gaps, or you're like, okay, his team is not in a frantic, but mine is. Hey, Corey, can you let me know like what you're doing? What strategies are you using? Because you might be learning from other leaders as well. But I think it's so key, like you said, to start building that relationship early. So are you building
Hmm.
those relationships early? Do your people trust you before you end up in chaos? Because if they don't trust you ahead of time, they're going to already be like, you know what, I already know he's not going to let us know ahead of time. Like they're already
Hmm.
expecting that you're not going to keep them updated. So now they're going to the website of the company. They're going to other people that they do trust because they don't trust in you. And I think that's powerful that you built that relationship early, which helped your team and help you transition effectively. So that's really, really good. So outside of communication, you built those relationships early. You're communicating with your team. How are you guys communicating now? Like, what kind of means are you using? Because there might be some leaders out there that are like, okay, what are some ideas of how to maintain communication, making sure I'm checking in, making sure that I keep my people engaged and show that I care? How are you maintaining that communication relationship during the season?
So that's my expertise, right? You got to become
Oh,
creative.
okay.
Like, you got to be
Yeah.
creative in how you actually communicate with your people. And I'm gonna break it down to two pieces. What do you communicate by, and how do you communicate? And sometimes you got to check yourself in that. So the first part is, what do we communicate on? So be creative. The thing that they told us, as a company, was, hey, get on WebEx. That way you can see your people and y'all can have conversations and all that stuff. And then guess what happens the first day we get from home, or we're working from home? WebEx doesn't work. I can't hear you.
Mm.
Now you have to be logged into this other thing. And then they were like, hey, try the Skype for Business chat thing on there and see if you can do a video chat. And then they're like, nope, that's not working either. I can't hear, three-quarters of my associates. Some of them don't have a camera, um, for me to be able to see them. How do you become creative? And so even this platform here, like, we started our Zoom power sessions in the morning. Even
Wait,
in the
wait, wait,
chat,
wait.
like,
Let's talk about the power session before you continue. What is the
yeah.
power session?
So every morning we got to pulse check each other, right? Even myself, like, I feed off of my associates. So I want to see you. I want to at least talk to you. And it's not for me to be the big bad supervisor, manager, whatever, to be like, I got my hand on you and I see you and you're logged in right now. And now I know what your timesheet should look like. It's not about that. It's the relationship we built and the foundation that we have, that my associates are telling me. The other day, I'll tell you a story real quick. The other day, what was this, about Wednesday? I'm working from home, so I'm taking my trash out while we're doing the meeting. And so one of my associates started, well, where's your face at? And so he was like, I was like, okay, well, let me go ahead and turn my camera off. So I was like, I'm taking the trash out or whatever. And he was like, nah, because we want to see you. And they were excited about that. They were like, I want to see everybody. And so, we just make it light, like joke around to get yourself in the mindset of like, hey, I'm at home, but the work day doesn't change. So as I can touch you, and like I'll touch myself on the shoulder, as I can touch myself, I can't touch you right now. When we were at work, when we were in the workspace, I can physically see you, I can touch you, I can see how it's going, I can read your body language and all that stuff. So it's still being able to consistently do that, but being creative. And what platform do you use? I know through Zoom, I can still see you, I can still talk to you, and I know the hiccups really aren't there. My first two options went. My Skype for Business went. My no shade to Skype. My WebEx wasn't working, so I couldn't hear him. So how do you become creative? I even had another peer of mine. She said they're doing sessions of TikTok dances, and so I was like, maybe it's not me. I'm not gonna
Wow.
TikTok you, but it
Renegade,
makes sense
renegade.
because yeah. So they're doing the whole, what is it, like the little whatever,
Baby,
get out
don't
the
give me
way, like
something.
yeah, I don't know, and then you got to get out the way, like
Yeah.
um, but but it livens it up for the people to say like, hey, I'm at home, but I'm still enjoying being around my family, really. And that's the goal, to build your entire team, is to be a family. You're there for them 8, 10, 12, 14 sometimes hours a day. That's your family, and you should operate as such. So
Mm,
that's pick your platform. So find your platform, be creative in seeing your people, being able to touch your people through the actual platform that you're using. And then the second part is, how do you communicate? So we have our power sessions when I can be lively and I can bloom and I can do all these things, and you can see me do it. And if I have to deliver some news or some business info, or this is a new process that we're coming out with, you can see my demeanor for me to be able to tell you this. But a lot of times we're communicating through chat or text message or something like that. You can't see my demeanor. And so I had an associate yesterday. I'm giving her feedback on, they do audits in the office to see how you're working your particular pieces of work and your files that you have and all that stuff. And I said, I just had to get real to a certain point, because I'm not one of those leaders who kind of like shushes you along and says like, hey, it's gonna be okay and all that stuff. Like, yeah, we have that relationship where I'm coming from the right place. But at the end of the day, you're not gonna learn unless I tell you. And there's a lot of people who are craving that feedback. I think the statistic says somewhere upwards of like 60 or 70% of people actually want that feedback.
yep.
And for some reason, as leaders, we're like, well, it's okay, we'll work on it next time or whatever. But it's give the hard conversation feedback. And it honestly, I could have made every excuse in the book. It's 4 o'clock. We get off at 4:30. It's 4 o'clock on a Friday. You're about to start your weekend, and I'm about to come at you with this information that I'm like, you need to change this. But that's, again, our relationship. I can do that because I built it with you. And so my information was, hey, look, you've been getting knocked on the same thing for 3 months now. Something has to give. And then we work through it. And she understands it. And I know she understands it, because she was like, her response was, I appreciate the feedback. It
Mm,
wasn't left on red. It wasn't, I didn't respond for the next 30 minutes and logged out. Like, it wasn't that. It was like, hey, I appreciate it. Can you send me this? That way I can use that as my checks and balances. So then she empowered herself to say, okay, I'm going to take steps to fix it. And so then after that, I just have to trust you. I'm going to check in on you, but I got to trust you.
yeah.
So the thing is, as leaders, we can sometimes become pushed into or funneled into a corner by having that conversation, because you don't know how that's coming off to them. I gave feedback to the associate the other day, and I had to circle back and say, you know, I'm coming from a good spot. Like, don't. I realized after reading it again that it sounds like I was just like shooting flames at you. And he was like, no, 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 I didn't take it that way or whatever. But even for myself, I had to check myself to say, through text message or through typing on IM, um, sometimes it can be misconstrued on what you're trying to say.
Definitely.
So your simple, hey, can you get this done for me, can come off as, I need you,
Hey, can you
I
get
need
this
you to get
done?
this done right now.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
right
yeah,
now. Drop
yeah.
everything you're doing, get it done right now. And so, it can come off bad. But so just make sure you're checking in on your associates, and you're realizing how your communication is coming off, because we are operating in a time where you might not be seeing me right now. And
Yeah.
even seeing my face right now, seeing your face right now, what I'm saying could sound completely different if you don't see my face.
That's true. That's true. That's so true. Like a text messages and things can get misconstrued. And I really like again, you're
Yeah.
dropping so many great nuggets. Like you guys make sure you go check out Corey. Like he's again employee engagement expert. He's going to be able to get your team to the next level because not only does he manage and lead within his 9 to 5, he also has a business. So he's trying to support other leaders in these same strategies so they can help and maintain that engagement, which aids in performance, productivity, and retention.
Hmm.
And like you were saying, there are studies that show that employees that get regular feedback are more engaged, 3 times more engaged. So that's why, I've been putting stuff out there too. Talk about engagement, like, or
Hmm.
find ways to engage them, have feedback, make sure you're connecting with them. So, just like you said, choose your right platform. If your one platform doesn't work that maybe the company has, okay, maybe look into other platforms. We've been on Zoom. Zoom has been perfect as well as my within my organization. And just like you said, when we all were on Zoom together, my leadership team, because it's all a bunch of leaders, so all of the
Hmm.
leaders of the organization within our little shop, we all hopped on and they were so excited to see each other. They're like,
Yep.
man, I miss you guys. Because we at work, we would get up and midday, we would have these little chats, by the
Hmm.
table. We had our routine. And this has kind of disturbed it, especially if you have people who have behavior styles like Corey has, where they love interaction. So they need to see you. They want to be able to see your face. And that really benefited. We're meeting twice a week now. So we're maintaining that engagement, having that chitter chatter in the beginning. And maybe we might not even start talking business until 20 minutes within the
Hmm.
conversation because again we're trying to keep our people engaged and keep each other engaged and support each other as other leaders. You also talk about feedback. That is so important. Like I was saying earlier, like we might think that we know it all, or you might say, oh well, I'll deal with it when we get back to work. But it's important that you're giving feedback and then following up, because just like you did, hey, I reached out to my team member and I asked them, did that come off wrong? I just want to make sure that I
Hmm.
convey that effectively. So again, I love that. Just so many nuggets. So what kind of process do you have as other leaders? Because again, our leadership team, we get together twice a week, talk about different things. But what would you say about other leaders making sure they connect not only with their team but with other leaders? Do you guys have a process like that? And if you don't, what would you suggest to other leaders on staying connected to other leaders as well so they can have that leadership support? Because what you experience as a leader is totally different than what you might
Hmm.
experience as a team member.
Yeah. So, as in process right now, we meet every day as a leadership team, and so it's our managers. Sometimes, it could be the higher ups and whatnot. But we meet every day to kind of go over, what's the plan, what's the new information, how do we disseminate that information and all that stuff. Um, so we go via WebEx. That way, we can talk to each other, we can see each other, and honestly, over the last week, it kind of showed to me the engagement level of the leaders, because as my team is saying, I want to see your face, I want to talk to you, I want to be engaged with you. These meetings are also kind of like, some people have their camera on, some people don't have their camera on. You can kind of hear a question and they're like, so what do y'all think about this? And then all of a sudden you hear, oh yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And so you can tell this
Who's
meeting, like,
engaged?
yeah, this meeting is not very value added at this point. So it's
Yeah.
a it's a what I would recommend, um and I've learned this from really three highly respected leaders that I've crossed paths with. You have meetings, but limit your meetings, because you have to understand what is value added and what is not value added. So
Yeah.
if it is a critical task and I absolutely need to for you to know this today, let's meet, or let's shoot an email out and we can talk through the process. Because again, one of the things I preach is that we are adults, and I think that sometimes we miss that, um, I guess, moniker or idea when we're thinking from director to manager to supervisor to associate, and then all of a sudden we get to the associate level and say, I don't think they can comprehend this simple thing that happens, which is not true. But how do you effectively hold that meeting? So we can sit here and talk about statistics and numbers and all that stuff, but it also is beneficial as a leader to realize we've been talking about numbers for 4 days straight now. Maybe we
Mm.
just need to have a conversation about how y'all doing at home.
Yes, yes.
Um, Maybe we just need to check in to what plans do you have this weekend? Hey, is anybody watching any shows or anything like that? And then all of a sudden, I guarantee you the silence turns into engagement. And then we can
Hmm.
talk about numbers and all that stuff. Like you said, sometimes it'd be 20 minutes into that where y'all start talking about processes and procedures. But for my leaders out there, just realize meetings are good and bad. They are value added sometimes, and they are a negative impact at times. Because again, the statistics shows that it takes about 23 minutes for a leader to get back on track. For some, not even just a leader, for someone to get back on track after you met with them. So just realize if I'm meeting with my team in the morning, I'll just run your timeline down, and that way y'all can see the actual process. I meet with my team in the morning. It's about 10, 15 minutes. So let's say we start at 8, 10, 15 minutes. I started with you. We had our meeting. I start to get into some work. And then that puts me, let's say about 8:15, I actually start, answer some questions for my people, make sure that they're doing okay as far as maybe they had some side questions or anything like that. I got emails to check. I got some things I need to run on the background to check reports. And then boom, 9 o'clock comes and I have a meeting with the managers. And then we meet through that and we talk about numbers and all these other things. And what should have been a 30-minute meeting turns into an hour meeting. So now I'm back at it at 10 o'clock. And now I pull my IM back up and I have 4 or 5 questions I need to answer. And those things take time sometimes. So then you're trying to get through that and then you get back on track. And so at bare minimum, you're thinking about getting back on track to start your day at 10:30. What would have happened if your manager, your supervisor, whoever would have got back on track at 9? Because what y'all talked about today wasn't really value added and wasn't really critical to absolutely know right now. And so I want you to think about that sometimes as far as you want to meet and you want to pulse check people and you want to talk about processes and procedures, but sometimes you're actually derailing a person by having that meeting. So there's a
Hmm.
there's a balance you have to have in that.
Yeah, and I know sometimes I'm like, are we meeting just to meet? Like I love that because you're basically saying that meet with not just to meet, but there's going to be
Mhm.
value added. You making sure that you're checking in with your people and seeing how they're doing, having times where you hit the critical things. Maybe there's a hot task, or maybe there's some guidelines or some changes that you want to just reiterate because people aren't logging in on time or something. And then open
Mhm.
it up for questions and transition. Because yes, I've been in days where I'm like, man, we having like 10 meetings today. And then you're sitting in the meeting and it's like, could this been an email? Could
Right.
this have
Could have
been
sent
an
me an email.
email? Yeah, and
Yeah.
ask that question before you have a meeting. Could this be in an email? Or is this
Right.
so critical that I need to have this conversation with my team now, or I need to share this with the leadership team now because I'm noticing out of the hundreds of people that are logging in, 50% are logging in by 8 a.m. and that is the
Hmm.
standard. So they just want to hit that point. But again, don't meet to just meet. Ask, should this be in an email? And then, yes,
Hmm.
hit those critical points. But in the beginning, ensure that you're checking in with people. Hey, how are you guys doing? Is there anything I can do? And then even closing out, thanking them. And I know, that might be the typical way all leaders end things, but you have to thank your people. Let them know that you appreciate, because again, these are the people that are pushing your mission and your vision. These are the people that are probably, they are. It's just like, people that have fans, they're musical artists. They wouldn't be where they are if it wasn't for their fans buying their
Hmm.
music, supporting their music, going to their concerts, right? Same thing with your team. Your team is the reason that you are successful, that things are being done. Because if you lose a team member, who do you think is going to fall on? Now there's going to be more stress to the rest of the people on the team, more stress on you. So it's important that you recognize your people, check in on them, hit those major points, thank them, answer questions, and then transition. But always ask yourself, can this be in an email? I love that. I think that's like a nugget. Can
Hmm.
this be in an email? Because you want to add value. I love that. So
Yeah, I
before
know.
we,
Before you move on there, I
yeah.
know. So a lot of us, we're in this digital age, and we're like, "Is this textable? Why did you call me?" It's when you're in the corporate environment. Is this emailable? Is this emailable? Is this PDFable? Can you
Is
just
this
send it over? I can.
PowerPointable?
Yeah,
You
right. Is
know?
it PowerPointable? Just send it over. I'll take care of it from there.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it. So before we transition and transition to our the rest of our days, what are some three tips? I know you gave them a bunch of tips, and maybe you just want to wrap up what you hit
Yeah.
today. But what would you leave the leaders out there that again they might be struggling? They just need to hear from another leader of how they're making it, how they're maintaining. Because again, you manage a business as well.
Hmm.
And before we even transition into that, how have you been able to manage your business and maintain your business outside of your 9 to 5 during this time? Like, what's keeping you motivated to still work on your business endeavors? Although, you do have your 9 to 5, because you do have a lot of people out there that
Hmm.
are leaders at their work, at their 9 to 5, but they're also leaders at a business that they're managing.
Hmm.
And they might be like, I don't know how to manage both. So, but you are managing both. So, what are you doing that once you clock out at 4:30 or 5, that is still pushing energy into your business?
Yeah, and I can tell you, I mean, there was typically by going to work, there was a separation in work and home. And then once I walk through the door, I'm like, this is me and this is my time. And so now it's becoming cloudy and everything's together. And we're like, okay, well, I just logged off my laptop to log into my other laptop. And so you can become burnt out sometimes. But what you have to keep in mind is just write down a list. What are your goals for the day? What are you going to get done? And then also realize sometimes it is, as much as we preach that being lazy or you got to keep grinding it out and all that other stuff, sometimes it's okay to just rest and take
Mm,
30 minutes and decompress, or whatever it might be, the day that you just have to decompress, and your productivity will be so much better the next day. So I've been just making sure that I write down my goals every day, and I know what I'm working on right now, and I tell myself I need to take 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes a day, and just do that thing. And so those small steps will create the completion to it. And I think sometimes we convolute it and we muddy the waters and say, I got to spend 4 hours after work today. I got to go spend 10 hours, or I'll be up till 2 a.m. doing this thing, whatever, right? And that might work for you on some days, but don't burn yourself out, thinking that, okay, I've been working from home all day. I'm going to log out, log back in, and then I'm going to do 17 more hours of work. And now you're just burnt out by the end of the day. So write your list down. So that's what I've been doing. I write down my list. What do I need to accomplish? And then at that point, what steps do I need to accomplish each thing? And I start checking it off. Okay, I've done this. Okay, check off. I've done this section. Check it off. I've even looking into what, let's say I'm building a website, right? What's going to be my platform? What platforms are available? Maybe I spend my day looking into what platforms are available, and that's my work for the day. Maybe I start looking into what templates I want to use for it. If you want to reach out to some clients, how many clients are you going to reach out to? If I
mhm.
say I'm going to reach out to 10 people today, have I reached those 10 people? After that, wipe your hands, be done with it, and then refresh your mind, because sometimes we can be so cloudy in what we do, and it all comes together now that we're working from home and we don't have our own space to be able to separate. I was just at work and now I'm still at work. Sometimes
Mm,
walking through the door prompts us to say, it's me time, but now
yeah.
we don't have that.
That's good. That's good. And I've been guilty, guys. I'm gonna admit it right now. This past week, I've been going to bed between 12 and 1 a.m. Yes. And then I get up at 4:45 a.m. because I'm a host of an accountability call with some group of amazing people. So, I'm getting a few hours of sleep. And then I'm working my 9 to 5. And in between that, I'm a single mom. So I'm managing my kids. And then I transition off and I'm logged back into another laptop to work my business or work with clients. And I had a couple burnt out days. And I told myself, I was like, Aisha, I was so happy that today was, I'm Friday, I'm clocked out. I slept in a little bit today. That's why I decided, I think this lunch and learn was very valuable, but I purposely picked 12 o'clock because I knew that I could get a certain amount of sleep, because I realized last week I was burnt out. I have a business partner that I work with, in regards to some other development things that we do with leaders and businesses. And I got tired. I was like, I don't want to talk to you for the rest of the week. I'm done. I don't want to talk anymore because
Mhm.
again, I was burnt out. I was like, I don't want to hear your voice anymore because I need a disconnect, and I think it's really important that we remember that if we are managing and we are leaders in different spaces, because I'm a leader at home, I'm a leader within my business, I'm a leader at my job. So I have to disconnect. And I think it's important that we do have a balance. I'll hit up Corey sometimes and I'm like, hey, hold each other accountable. Hey, are you working on
Yeah.
this? And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna do like maybe a couple lines, but I'm about to go to sleep. And I'm like, yep, you're
Mhm.
right. Go to sleep. I'm
Mhm.
going to rest. And I think it's important to have that balance and have that you time. And I think as leaders, sometimes we pour so much in of ourselves out to support other things. We have to pour back in. We have to make sure that our cup is full as well. So I appreciate you giving that. Hey, write down your daily tasks, what you want to accomplish, and then once you do it, be done with it. You should not be staying up till 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. Get your rest. I mean,
Right.
I'm talking about 2, 3 hours of sleep because it's been nice when I went to sleep at 1 in the morning. And then my body naturally wakes up around 4 something because again, I've had this habit on getting on this accountability call at 5 a.m. So, sometimes I'm up a little earlier, but we don't want to have this mindset that we're not pouring into ourselves either. Yes, grind it out, do what you
Mhm.
need to do, but remember that you have to take care of yourself. Remember, I shared on one of a call I hosted about our immune system. There are studies that show that your immune system can be broken down, which again makes you more susceptible to the coronavirus, makes you more susceptible to disease and other things. So if you're making sure that your physical health is good as well, that builds up those white blood cells. They can fight off those diseases and those things that try to attack it. So you have to make sure you're pouring into yourself. So yes, like Corey said, write down those daily goals. Make sure you're prioritizing because there could be things that could wait. You can maybe work on that business thing on Friday or on the weekend, and so you can decompress during the week. So I really, really enjoyed that, and I'm really, like I love just seeing your progression and how you're managing your 9 to 5 as well as your business in this season. So as we're wrapping up, like what are the things or what is the thing that you want to leave our leaders with? I mean, you've already given so many great nuggets. And like I said, you guys go check it out. Corey has some great things about to come down the pipeline, like a
A lot.
guide for you leaders, like lots. So just leave them with something or some things that you really want them to take away, and then we'll close it out by giving them your information. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I wanted to touch on the list right before we get into the next piece, right? And
Hmm.
so I want to leave you with this piece about the list. If you write down everything, you'll complete nothing. So make sure, like she said, prioritize what it is and give yourself three things. If you're working on your business, write down three or four things that you want to complete that day or you want to work towards. Because if you write down 20, 25, 30 things and you're like, I get it. We all have this entrepreneurial mindset and we're leading ourselves and we done read the books and we done listen to the prescription and we done listen to all that stuff and we're all jazzed up. And then all of a sudden we're like, everything's getting done today. And then you get home and then you stare at the wall and you're like, I've done nothing. Because I didn't know where to start. Because I've written every single thing down and I haven't completed any of it. So if you write down everything, you will complete nothing. So give yourself those critical tasks. But I'll get into my tips, right? So for all of my people, you're working from home, you're leading your teams, you're leading yourself from home, your kids, whatever it might be, connection is key. So number one, always connect with your associates, always connect with your peers, whatever it may be. Connection is key because if you don't have a connection, certain people can lose a sense of purpose. And if they lose that sense of purpose, they may check out on you. And it's not anything that they don't know about the job. It's not anything that they've forgotten about, whatever task needs to be completed. It's just that I don't feel an importance to myself because I don't feel connected to people. So check in with your people. Make sure you're touching them from your virtual phone, your Zoom, reach your hand out, touch your neighbor. Um, and just make sure that they are engaged and they understand that we are in this together and the family hasn't left, right? And then I'll segue into my second point where the workspace, or I should say, the workday hasn't changed, but the workspace has. And so, as our family, we come together and we do great work. The only difference is that we're working from home. So the workday hasn't changed. We're still going to crush our goals. We're still going to be the number one team for whatever department you're in. We're still going to have the most sales, if that's your thing. It hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is you might be sitting on your couch, You might be sitting outside like I have been in the morning so I can stare out in the nature so I can keep my sanity. You might be sitting in an office, wherever it is, the workday hasn't changed. So don't just throw your papers in the air and then all of a sudden you're like, I have no clue what to do because I work from home now. It's the same thing. And then the final part is to trust. And I know we didn't talk about that a lot right now or previous to this, but trust in your associates, trust in your peers, trust in your leaders. If you have people reporting to you, trust them. Because in these times we're working from home, we can't see what everyone's doing all day. We can't monitor screens unless you can at your job. We can't keep some leaders want to keep that thumb down on their associates at all points in times of the day. Associates love autonomous things, right? They love to be able to embrace and be empowered. Trust your people. Don't check in with them every 15 minutes to see exactly what they're doing, how they did it, how quickly they completed it. Trust your people. If you give them a task, trust that they've done it. You can follow up, but I don't have to bring it to your attention and say, oh, yeah, I went back behind you and checked you. Trust them. Create the bond, create the trust in them to say, we're working from home and I know you're going to kill it. And look, I'm going to give you this tip on for even my team. I said, we don't typically work from home, but this is me putting my trust in you that we're going to produce results. Because guess what? The minute we have to go back to our office, maybe our results will then sway people to say, that might not be a bad idea to offer people to work from home maybe once or twice a week, maybe 2 or 3 days a week or whatever. Or maybe we start offering full-time positions to work from home. And I trust you that you'll be able to produce this information and produce this result to be able to prove to the higher ups, because it's business, it's numbers. Prove to them that you can do it. Prove to them that you can get the job done. And I trust you that you can do it. So I don't need to say on you every other minute asking you what you need to do. So trust your people. Just create that trust. And I guarantee you, just by trusting them, you'll see your results fly through the roof.
Okay. Wow, guys. Listen, that nugget right there, I might have to use that. I don't have to use that. Your workspace, your workday hasn't changed. Oh, your workday hasn't changed. It's just the workspace. Like that's so powerful. I think that yeah, I mean, it might be like awkward to be working on on the couch or working on your deck or working, wherever in the household that you choose. But that is so true. Just because we're at home, yes, we are. It's just a different workspace. We should try to maintain the same energy, the same drive. Yes,
Mhm.
you might be in sweatpants when you're at home. But the workday has not changed. I think that's really powerful, because again, I think that our bodies are naturally used to coming home, and that is our place of refuge. Because if you
Mhm.
think about it, like our bodies are used to the transition. You come home, yet like for me, I'm taking my boots off. For you, you're taking on your penny loafers or whatever they call them
I got the
shoes.
loafers on,
The loafers, the
Now
loafers.
I
You
got
taking
the
on
now I have
the
the slides on. I got the
Oh, okay.
sandals.
Yeah, now you got the
Yeah.
sandals on. You're switching out that work shoe. Okay.
Hmm. I still got to put the
But
dress socks on though, so I feel slightly official.
okay. Well, whatever works. Like I
Yeah.
was on a call. We were on a call this morning, and a gentleman had on a whole suit. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
sure he has on pajama pants, but he had a suit and tie.
Yep.
And if that's what you need to do to get your mind in that space, do that. I mean, those calls in the morning probably gets everybody going. It gets their mind switched because again, we
Hmm.
are in a awkward space where we're going from having the mindset of our home being our sanctuary where we disconnect. We're making it into the place we connect to. So man, great tips. Like I think everyone got so many nuggets from you. I appreciate you hopping on. Like you guys replay this, share this, and let people know how they reach you. How can they reach you on social media, maybe email, but let them know what you have coming up, how they can reach you. And if you're offering some virtual trainings or if you will, like just talk about all that because I think what you provided was so valuable for leaders that you guys have to connect with Corey.
Yeah. So you can find me on Facebook. You can find me at Corey Sigu. I'll have my personal. I also have my business page. I would encourage you to follow my business page because I drop videos, statistics, infographics, all that stuff. So follow Corey Sigu. On Instagram, same thing, Corey Sigu. You can follow me there. Same thing. I'm dropping videos, tips, information. You can connect with me through there. DM me. Feel free to message me and whatnot. And we're actually starting to create an accountability call. So if you want to join that accountability call, feel free to send me a message. through Facebook, Instagram, whatever. And we're going to start this accountability call because I am pushing people currently to lead themselves. So I have a couple individuals who's approached me and said, look, I don't know what to do in this moment. I don't know how to utilize my time. You found out what you want to do. I quite haven't found out what I want to do. And so we're going to create that call for you to be able to work through what's the next step. Okay, what's the vision? What's the goal? How do we work backwards from there? And how do we get to that point? And what steps can you take in this time? Because you have a lot of free time. You can't go to the club. You can't go to 6,000 restaurants. You can't go to the bar. So save you some money, hop on this accountability call. I'm not going to charge you for it. And then we can figure out how you can take your life to the next level and you become the leader of yourself. So if y'all want to join in on it, feel free to send me a message. I will be starting that probably up this week coming, actually. So if you want to join in on that, let me know. The website coming soon. And then I also have some good information for you that will be coming out for the low price of your email. So be on the lookout for that.
I love that.
Be on the lookout for that. So if you reach out to me however you can, and then we'll talk.
Awesome. Awesome. And again, thank you so much for hopping on. Man, like that was amazing. Like that was really, really good. And I'm going to be getting on those accountability calls too. I love it, you know. But again, thank you for hopping on. Leaders, please take time and like replay this. And like I said, share this with your team. Connect with Corey if you want to, you know, work with him. You know, have him come and maybe provide some personal development for your team. But really, really take this information in because I think it'll help take your leadership to the next level because this is a leader that is thriving and striving through this season. So thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you. Thank you for getting on here, Corey, and just dropping just fire today. And
I appreciate y'all.
We will talk to you guys soon.
All right.
Bye.